I'm Arnav and I'll be moderating today's session. Before we begin, a quick note on how this session will run. All the participants are on mute and we will be using the Q&A box for to post our questions as they come during the presentation, and we'll take all these questions at the end of the presentation, the Q&A segment. After this introduction, I'll hand over the mic to Dr. Jha, who will sort of guide us through the presentation of the report. If you face any connectivity issues, do try refreshing your link, and I hope this is smooth. So for those joining, for those who are joining our sessions for the first time, the National Consortium for Multilingual Education India brings together practitioners, researchers, and government partners working to strengthen multilingual education across the country. This webinar series is one of the ways in which we share field evidence across that network. Our last session, in the sixth webinar of the series, Akhila Paida and Dr. Shailaja Menon presented a nationwide MLE landscaping study for Tata Trust, which found that MLE in India is variously framed, and they looked at different models and programs. This session instead gives us a close-up look at exactly one of those programs in practice and what does it involve and how does it work. Today's session takes us to Bastar, Chhattisgarh, a district where, according to a 2022 language mapping of over 1,400 grade 1 children, only about 5% reported Hindi, the medium of instruction, as their home language or a language that they speak at their home. Most children usually begin school in their language that they don't speak at home in the district. Since March 2022, LLF's collaboration, the government of Chhattisgarh, the Neev program, has been working with the Department of School Education Chhattisgarh across all the 1,524 primary schools in the district. This program builds on previous programs, similar programs in Rajasthan. It is also aligned with the NEP 2020 and the NCFR Foundation stage. They will hear the findings of a process study of that program actually happened in this classroom once the child's home language entered them and what it meant for teachers and children, what it suggests for the road ahead. Take us through this, I am delighted to introduce Pushpam Kumar Jha. Pushpam is a senior specialist research and documentation with the Multilingual Education Unit, Language and Learning Foundation, New Delhi, where his work centers on documenting and responding to various needs of the unit's programs. He holds a PhD in sociology from Jamia Millia Islamia based on ethnographic fieldwork among the Adivasi community in rural Bastar between 2017 and 19, which makes him especially well placed for the study he'll present today. His work spans material education, schooling, sociology of education, teacher education, professional development, alongside the intersections of tribal identity, migration, and language among Adivasi communities in India. His recent publications include a journal article in comparative education studies and a book chapter in migrants, mobile, and descent outreach. Pushpam, over to you. Do this presentation in the next 45 minutes, and then we'll open up the questions as they come. I would request everybody to please, as and when your questions come up in your head, post them in the Q&A section so that we can ask you at the presentation. Thank you so much. Okay, I think Pushpam unable to speak.
Pushpan ji, can you need to unmute?
Yes, I have. Hello? I don't think you are audible. Just give us 1 minute. Hello?
Yes, Pushpan ji, we can
I
hear
don't
you.
think you are audible.
We can hear.
Arnav, will you please the slide on the screen? Just wait a while. We are, yeah. So thank you, Arnav, and
I am Pushpam from the Language and Learning Foundations. I will present the key findings and recommendations from the study titled Multilingual Education Practices in India, a process study of Bastar program. I will present in both Hindi, English and Hindi over about 50 minutes to 45 minutes. Since 2000, LLF and the Department of School Education, Chhattisgarh have jointly implemented the Neev multilingual education program in Bastar district. This study is based on the program process documentation. Um, Throughout these presentations, I will hold two things together. The substantive movement towards multilingual classroom practices that Bastar has achieved and the areas where the movement now needs to be carried further. The presentation has four parts. First, the context of Bastar and the NEEP program. Second, 7 key findings from the classrooms. Third, what these findings mean for practice. And fourth, our recommendations and conclusion. Um, LLF वर्ष 2022 से छत्तीसगढ़ स्कूल शिक्षा विभाग के साथ मिलकर बस्तर जिले में बहुभाषी शिक्षा कार्यक्रम नीव संचालित कर रहा है। मेरी आवाज आ रही है? यह अध्ययन नीव बहुभाषी शिक्षा कार्यक्रम के प्रोसेस डॉक्यूमेंटेशन पर केंद्रित है। मेरी कोशिश रहेगी कि मैं प्रोसेस डॉक्यूमेंटेशन से उभरे दो पक्षों को समेकित रूप से एक साथ रख सकूं। पहला, कक्षाओं में बहुभाषी शिक्षण की ओर दिखाई देने वाला वास्तविक बदलाव, और दूसरा वे शैक्षणिक और व्यवस्था स्तरीय सीमाएं जो अभी भी इस बदलाव को प्रभावित करती है। इसके लिए मैंने प्रेजेंटेशन को 4 हिस्से में रखा है। पहला, बस्तर और नीव परियोजना का संदर्भ, दूसरा मुख्य फाइंडिंग्स, तीसरा इस फाइंडिंग्स के एमएलई प्रैक्टिसेस के मायने, और चौथा निष्कर्ष। आप नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। So let me begin with the context. Bastar lies in southern Chhattisgarh with Jagdalpur as its headquarters, a heavily forested district home to many Adivasi communities and among the least urbanized in the state. Our language mapping survey of 2022 revealed a wide gap between the language children speak at home and the language of school. Only 5% reported Hindi, the medium of instructions, as their home language. More than 10 home languages were recorded, and with Halbi dominant in 42% of the school, followed by Bhatri, Gondi, and Dhruva. As the 2008 data indicates that this mismatch caused about 37% of children in grade 3 to 5 could read a grade 2 level text, and about 60% could subtract. These figures predate NEEP, but read together with the language mapping data, they indicates why a multilingual response was necessary in Bastar. जैसा हम सब जानते हैं, बस्तर दक्षिण छत्तीसगढ़ में स्थित एक घने क्षेत्र वाला जिला है जिसका मुख्यालय जगदलपुर है। यहाँ अनेक आदिवासी समुदाय रहते हैं और यह राज्य के सबसे कम नगरीकृत जिलों में से एक है। वर्ष 2022 में कक्षा स्तर पर किए गए लैंग्वेज मैपिंग सर्वे में बस्तर जिले के बच्चों की भाषा और स्कूल की भाषा में व्यापक भाषाई अंतर देखने को मिला। केवल 5% बच्चों की भाषा घर की भाषा हिंदी थी। सर्वेक्षण में 10 से अधिक घर की भाषाएं सामने आई, जिसमें हल्बी, भतरी, गोंडी, ध्रुवा प्रमुख भाषाएं थी। इसका अर्थ है कि ग्रामीण बस्तर के अधिकांश बच्चे अपने घरेलू भाषा से अलग भाषा में स्कूली शिक्षा शुरू करते हैं। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज। अगर हम असर के डेटा को देखें तो वो जिले में कक्षा 3 से 5 से केवल 37% बच्चे कक्षा 2 के स्तर का पाठ पढ़ सकते थे, और केवल 16% बच्चे जो थे वो घटाव कर रहे थे। अगर हम इन आंकड़ों को लैंग्वेज मैपिंग सर्वे के साथ जोड़कर देखें तो यह स्पष्ट होता है कि बस्तर में बहुभाषिक शैक्षणिक पहल की आवश्यकता थी। The scale of this language mismatch in Bastar, the positive response to LLF's first multilingual education program in Rajasthan, and the supportive policy environment created by NEP 2020 and the NCF for the foundational stage together lead to NEEP. The program began in March 2022 in 200 Halbi dominant schools and was later extended with modification to all 1,524 primary schools in Bastar in grade 1 and 1 to 3. Neev pairs multilingual education with a structured pedagogy approach, and its design has three features. The teacher guides propose 70 to 9% use of child's language in early grade, easing to 50 to 70% and structured exposure to Hindi increase. In 90 minutes, four block lesson integrates oral language development, decoding, reading, and writing, and storytelling festival and school museums bring community knowledge into the curriculum. One design assumption should be stated at the outset because several findings related back to it. The program was designed for classroom where children share a home language and the teachers also know the language, what the study calls type 2 classroom situations. बच्चे और स्कूल की भाषा के बीच जो अंतर हमने देखा बस्तर में और इसके साथ राजस्थान में एलएलएफ के पहले बहुभाषी कार्यक्रम से मिले सकारात्मक अनुभव और 2022 और एनएससीएफ 2000 की 2020 तथा एनसीएफ एफएस 2022 के अनुकूल नीतिगत वातावरण ने नीव कार्यक्रम की आधारभूमि तैयार की। ओके, कार्यक्रम मार्च 2022 में 200 हल्बी बहुल स्कूलों में शुरू हुआ और बाद में बस्तर के सभी 1524 प्राथमिक स्कूलों में कक्षा 1 से 3 तक विस्तारित हुआ। नीव में बहुभाषी शिक्षा को स्ट्रक्चर पेडागोजी से जोड़ा गया। 90 मिनट के 4 ब्लॉक मॉडल में मौखिक भाषा विकास, डिकोडिंग, पढ़ना और लिखने को शामिल किया गया। शुरुआती कक्षा में बच्चों की भाषा को 70 से 90% उपयोग का प्रावधान है, जिससे हिंदी में बच्चों परिचय बढ़ने से 50 से 70% तक लाया जाता है। कार्यक्रम का यह इंस्ट्रक्शन डिजाइन यह सुनिश्चित करता है कि बच्चों की पहली साक्षरता उनकी घर की भाषा में। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। रिसर्च डिजाइन। The program designs draw on the wider multilingual education scholarship, comments on cross-language language transfer, Mole and colleagues on fronts of knowledge, on Berger on the continuum of biliteracy, and the literature on pedagogical translanguaging, which treats a child's language as one connected resource rather than a separate system. The study itself was a mixed method process documentation study. Its purpose was not to judge on a single measure where the program succeeded, but to understand how it was interpreted, negotiated, and adapted in real classrooms. The quantitative component was a survey of 486 teachers. For observations, we drew 20 schools by sample random sampling from the original 200 using two tools, language use and time on task. Qualitative components added interviews with 20 teachers and focus group discussion of children, community member, and field staff. Two cautions run through everything that follows. First, we document pattern and associations, not causal effects on learning. Second, the fourth group of home language use that I will describe later part of this presentation emerged from the data rather than guiding school selections. It implies that they are descriptive categories, not a ranking of effectiveness. ये जो अध्ययन था वो मिश्रित पद्धति पर आधारित एक प्रोसेस डॉक्यूमेंटेशन था, जिसका मुख्य उद्देश्य यह तय करना नहीं था कि कार्यक्रम सफल रहा या नहीं, बल्कि यह समझना था कि वास्तविक कक्षाओं में इसे कैसे समझा, अपनाया और अपनाया गया। इसमें 486 शिक्षकों का सर्वेक्षण किया गया। 20 स्कूलों में भाषा उपयोग और लैंग्वेज यूज एंड ऑन टाइम ऑन टास्क 20 स्कूलों में टाइम ऑन टास्क और लैंग्वेज यूज टूल्स के आधार पर कक्षावलोकन किया गया। 20 शिक्षकों के साक्षात्कार किए गए तथा बच्चों, समुदाय और इम्प्लीमेंटेशन फील्ड टीम के साथ सामूहिक चर्चा की गई। निष्कर्ष यहाँ पे हमारा मुख्य उद्देश्य ये नहीं था इस अध्ययन का कि हम वहां से कुछ ये देखें कि बच्चों का लर्निंग हो रहा है या नहीं। हम ये देखना चाह रहे थे कि क्या कक्षाओं में किस तरह का रुझान है और उसका प्रोग्राम डिजाइन के साथ किस तरह का संबंध दिखता है। अगला स्लाइड। तो अब नाउ वी आर स्टार्टिंग विद द की फाइंडिंग्स। let me turn to the classrooms. Across the 20 schools, 42% of interactions time was in Hindi, 37% in Halbi, 17% in mixed use of two, and about 4% was silence or off task. Halbi and mixed use together come to 54%, a substantial entry of the child's language into the everyday teaching. The qualitative change matter as much as the number, as one teacher told us. Initially, we used Halbi only when something was unclear. Now we use Halbi most of the times. Through the systematic use of teacher guides, poems, stories, and posters, the child's language moved from being an occasional aid to a planned and legitimate classroom resource. That is a significant shift in a system where this language had no formal place. One interpretive note, we do not have a comparable pre-program baseline, so 54% should be read as where classroom now stands rather than a measured before and after game. 20 स्कूलों में किए गए कक्षा अवलोकन का जब हमने विश्लेषण किया तो पाया कि कुल ऑब्जर्व टाइम में कक्षा संवाद की भाषा जो है उसमें 42% में हिंदी का उपयोग हो रहा है, 37% में हल्बी और 17% में समय में दोनों भाषाओं का मिश्रित उपयोग देखा गया। इस प्रकार देखें तो बच्चों की भाषा लगभग 54% कक्षा समय में उपस्थित थी। यह सकारात्मक विकास शिक्षकों के साक्षात्कार में भी सामने आया और ज्यादातर शिक्षकों ने बताया कि टीएलएम, शिक्षक संदर्शिका, कविता, कहानी और पोस्टरों के कारण हल्बी उनके लिए केवल कभी कभी यूज करने वाली भाषा ना होकर शिक्षण का एक नियोजित संसाधन बन गया। हालांकि हमारे पास नीव कार्यक्रम से पहले का कोई आधारभूत आंकड़ा नहीं है, इसलिए 54% केवल यही बताता है कि डेटा कलेक्शन के समय नहीं हुआ था। इससे पहले और बात की थी कि कहानी हम इसमें कोई कंपेयर नहीं कर पा रहे। नेक्स्ट, when we look beneath this average of 54%, four clear patterns emerge. On the 20 schools, 5 use the home language for less than 10% of time, 4 between 10 to 25%, 3 between 25 to 50%, and 8 for the more than half the time. It implies that the adaptation was real across the sample, and it took different forms in different schools. Among these, Group 3 proves especially instructive, and I will return to it in the third part. In all three of these schools, the teachers were not native speakers of Halbi. Let me repeat the question again. These groups tell us how the home language was used, that any particular level of use for this learning. Sorry. जब हमने इस 54% L1 के बच्चों की भाषा के प्रयोग में वेरिएंस को देखा तो पाया कि इसके स्कूलों के बीच L1 के उपयोग में अंतर था। 20 में से 5 स्कूलों में बच्चों की भाषा का उपयोग 10% से कम, 4 में 10 से 25%, 3 में 25 से 50% और 8 में 50% से अधिक था। इसका मतलब ये था कि बच्चों की भाषा को तो स्कूलों में अपनाया जा रहा है, यह तो सभी जगह दिख रहा है, लेकिन एक ही तरह से उनको नहीं अपनाया जा रहा। और ये हमारे लिए एक महत्वपूर्ण फाइंडिंग रही है, जो हम आगे में देखेंगे इसका क्या अर्थ है। स्कूलों को जब हमने 4 समूहों में बांटा तो ग्रुप 3 के स्कूलों में हमें एक कॉमन थ्रेड यह मिला, इन तीनों स्कूलों में कोई भी नेटिव हल्बी बोलने वाले शिक्षक नहीं थे। इस पर मैं वापस जब हम तीसरे हिस्से में जाएंगे इस प्रेजेंटेशन के तो इस पर हम फिर से चर्चा करेंगे। अगेन ये बात यहाँ पे फिर से बोलना जरूरी है, ये जो हमने ग्रुपिंग किया है यह केवल स्कूलों में भाषा के उपयोग का स्तर बताता है, बच्चों के भाषा के उपयोग का स्तर बताता है, उसका इफेक्टिवनेस नहीं बताता है। अगले स्लाइड पे चलिए। The study then examined not how much the home language was used, but in what form. Observation showed 4 forms. First, for classroom management, second, to explain a difficult task or concept. Third, to support an individual child or a small group. And in its most planned form, and that is fourth, as part of teacher guide-led bilingual teaching. Read together, this moves from situational use in the first form towards more planned, scaffolded pedagogical use. And the presence of the fourth form is itself evidence that the design was reaching the classroom. One qualification help us to see the next step. Greater use of home language did not itself produce dialogue. A good deal. Okay. A good deal of its remained teachers' directives, including extended explanations in Halbi. As the study put in, the benefits come not from the presence of children's language alone, but from its integration with dialogic, activity-rich teaching and genuine opportunity for children to participate. That is the direction the program is now moving on. अगर कक्षा अवलोकन में हमने सिर्फ यह जानने की कोशिश नहीं की कि बच्चों की भाषा का उपयोग हो रहा है या नहीं, और बल्कि ये भी जानने की कोशिश की कि यह जो किस फॉर्म में हो रहा है, किस रूपों में हो रहा है। जब हमने इस सवाल को डेटा के थ्रू चेक किया तो हमें कक्षाओं में 4 तरह के फॉर्म मिले। पहला फॉर्म कक्षा प्रबंधन से जुड़ा हुआ प्रयोग था। दूसरा, किसी कठिन कार्य अवधारणा को समझाने के लिए टीचर बच्चों की भाषा का प्रयोग करते थे। तीसरा, किसी बच्चे या छोटे समूह के साथ वो जाके डिस्कशन भी बच्चों की भाषा में करते थे। और चौथा, शिक्षक संदर्शिका पर आधारित नियोजित विभाषी शिक्षण के लिए भी कक्षाओं में देखा गया कि वो व्यवस्थित तरीके से कर रहे हैं कि पहले हम ओएलडी कराएंगे, फिर उसके साथ रीडिंग पे जाएंगे, बच्चों की भाषा में जो रीडिंग मटेरियल डेवलप किए थे उस पे जाएंगे। एक चीज जो बहुत क्लियरली हमें दिख रही थी इस अध्ययन में कि बच्चों की भाषा का अधिक उपयोग अपने आप में संवादपूर्ण शिक्षण में नहीं बदल जाता है। इसका वास्तविक लाभ तभी मिलता है जब भाषा की गतिविधियों और बच्चों की सक्रिय भागीदारी को जोड़ा जाए। हम इन फाइंडिंग्स पे वापस से सेक्शन 3 में आएंगे। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। The interaction data shows how this works. Teachers' talk made up 55% of what we observed. Children's responses 21%, and joint teacher-student interaction 17%. The encouraging pattern is the directions of travel. Joint interactions rose steadily with home language use, from about 12% in group 2 to around 90% in group 3 and 4. Classrooms using more of the children's language for fuller responses and more small group work, while those using less relied more on oral repetitions. So the home language is clearly opening a space for children to participate. The next step, and it's natural one to this stage of the program, is to convert that space into sustained classroom dialogue. अवलोकन में हमने देखा, जब हमने इसका विश्लेषण किया कि कक्षा में बच्चे और शिक्षक में जब बातचीत हो रही है तो उसका क्या पैटर्न है, तो हमने देखा कि ज्यादातर समय कक्षा में शिक्षक बोल रहे हैं, जो लगभग 55% बच्चों की भागीदारी लगभग 23% थी, और लगभग 17% ऐसा था जिसमें कि एक संवाद हो रहा हो। बच्चों की भाषा के हमने यह भी पैटर्न नोट किया कि बच्चों की भाषा बढ़ने के साथ जो ये संवाद का स्कोप है वो बढ़ता जाता है, क्योंकि जो कि लगभग 12% से बढ़कर 19% ग्रुप 3 और ग्रुप 4 के स्कूलों में देखा गया। एक और महत्वपूर्ण चीज जो हमें इस अध्ययन में मिली कि जहाँ पे बच्चों की भाषा का उपयोग हो रहा था, वहां पे जब बच्चे उत्तर दे रहे हैं तो वो थोड़ा विस्तृत कर दे रहे थे, लंबे उनकी बातचीत जो थी वो लंबी होती थी, और छोटे समूहों में भी काम दिखता था, यानी कि टीचर जाके बच्चों के साथ उनकी भाषा में इंगेज हो रहे थे। इस बिंदु से ये निष्कर्ष निकलता है, ये फाइंडिंग यह बताता है कि भाषाई समावेशन भागीदारी की जगह कक्षाओं में बना रहा है। लेकिन उसे संवादपूर्ण शिक्षण की तरफ ले जाने की जरूरत अभी बनी हुई है। अ, please, sir. Uh, engagement was uh, engagement was just engagement was consistently high across all four groups. Children's were when we have analyzed the children's engagement for time on task data, we find that the engagement was constantly high across four groups. Children's were engaged in the assigned activities for about 93% of the time. The indicator of ordinary classrooms and of orderly classroom and of children's willingness to take part. Uh, Again, Group 3 recorded the highest rate together with the most methodical use of literacy activities and material. The study reads this data carefully. High on task time tells us that children are engaged. It does not. Uh, it does not by itself measure the depth of that learning, since attention can also be held through copying and repetitions. Uh, this distinction is useful for us as a practitioner, as we will see in the implication in next slide. One important observation was that the schools okay okay uh, हम चा- हमने हमने टाइम टास्क टास्क हमने जब बच्चों के टाइम ऑन टास्क डेटा का विश्लेषण किया और ये देखने की कोशिश की कि बच्चे किस तरह का एंगेजमेंट कक्षा में किस तरह का है, तो ये पाया गया कि लगभग सारे स्कूलों में बच्चों का एंगेजमेंट 93% था। समूह 3 में यह दर ज्यादा थी और वहाँ लिटरेसी एक्टिविटीज का भी सबसे व्यवस्थित उपयोग हो रहा था। लेकिन गतिविधि में लगे रहना और सीखना एक ही बात नहीं थी, और ये हमें में दिख रहा था। कक्षाओं में दिख रहा था। आप अगली स्लाइड पे आएंगे। Finding the distribution of lesson times tell a consistent story. Oral language development took 42% of teaching time, a little above the teacher's guide reference band of 30 to 35%. Oral work grew with home language use and clearly lifted children's participation. One of the program's clearest gain, and the foundation on which other aspects of literacy can be built. Decoding and writing together average around 38%, again a combined band of roughly 40 to 45%. In the low L1 group, those students were more often engaged in decoding and writing as passive tasks. Reading received about 10% of time against a reference of 20%. So apart from reading, block sits close to the bands the teacher guide describes, which points to a broad acceptance of 4 block model across schools. The task now is to carry the strong oral foundations forward into independent reading and writing, the questions of sequencing rather than of whether the approach works or not. अध्ययन में जब हमने ऑन टास्क एक्टिविटीज का विश्लेषण किया, तब यह एक स्पष्ट तस्वीर दिखने लगी। ऑन टास्क एक्टिविटीज में बच्चे क्या कर रहे थे, हम इसको जानने की कोशिश कर रहे थे। हमने देखा कि मौखिक भाषा विकास को कक्षाओं में 42% समय मिला, जो शिक्षक निर्देशिका में निर्धारित 30 से 35% से थोड़ा अधिक था। बच्चों की भाषा यानी L1 का उपयोग बढ़ने के साथ मौखिक गतिविधियां और बच्चों की भागीदारी भी बढ़ी। यह कार्यक्रम की एक महत्वपूर्ण उपलब्धि है और हम इसे एक कार्यक्रम की महत्वपूर्ण उपलब्धि के तौर पर देख सकते हैं। डिकोडिंग और लेखन को लगातार को मिलाकर 38% समय मिला, जबकि पढ़ने की निर्धारित 20% की तुलना में केवल 10% समय मिल रहा था। कुल मिलाकर देखें तो पढ़ने को छोड़कर अन्य गतिविधियां 4 ब्लॉक मॉडल के अनुरूप थी। यह बताता है कि जब ये जो फाइंडिंग है ये बहुत क्लियरली बता रहा है कि ओरल लैंग्वेज डेवलपमेंट की वहां पे कक्षाओं में ग्राउंडिंग हो रही है। और इस फाउंडेशनल जो ओरल ओरल लैंग्वेज डेवलपमेंट को हम लिटरेसी में फाउंडेशनल भी बोलते हैं, उसके आधार पर उसको स्वतंत्र पठन और लेखन से जोड़ने की जरूरत है। कैन वी गो टू द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड? The seventh finding is among the most encouraging. This mixed language use average 70% across all schools, rising to 24% in Group 2 and about 31% in Group 3. This indicates a real movement away from the strict separation of language that has long characterized our classrooms. In Group 3, particularly, the teacher's guide, the materials, the training, and the children's own speech together supported more structured practice among teachers who were themselves still learning Halbi. The study described this accurately as an emergent practice rather than fully purposive translanguaging, since unplanned switching and old habits were still present alongside it. Uh, Read positively and I think correctly. This is a practice that has begun to take root and that the next phase can deliberately build on. Next slide. जो सबसे सकारात्मक फाइंडिंग्स इस रिपोर्ट से उभर कर आई है वह यह कि भाषाओं का विस्तृत उपयोग औसतन 17% था, जो समूह दो में 24 और समूह तीन में लगभग 21% तक पहुंचा है। यह भाषाओं को पूरी तरह अलग रखने की प्रवृत्ति से आगे बढ़ने का संकेत है और प्रोग्राम डिजाइन के अनुरूप है, जिसमें उद्देश्यपरक ट्रांसलैंग्वेजिंग के उपयोग को बढ़ावा दिया गया। एक बहुत ही क्लियर इंडिकेशन ये भी था कि जब शिक्षक बात कर रहे थे तो वो हल्बी और हिंदी एक साथ भी यूज कर रहे थे। आ, कई बार हमने ये भी देखा कुछ स्कूलों में, खास करके ग्रुप 1 के स्कूलों में, कि वहां पे ग्रुप 1 और कुछ ग्रुप 2 के स्कूलों में भी, कि वहां पे बच्चे जब बोल रहे हैं या टीचर टीचर जब इंगेज हो रहे हैं तो उन्होंने एक सेपरेशन बनाया था कि हमें कुछ चीजों के लिए हिंदी का यूज करना है, कुछ चीजों के लिए हल्बी का यूज करना है। लेकिन ये जो 17% मिक्स मिश्रित भाषा का उपयोग हम देख रहे हैं वो इस तरह के बैरियर्स को तोड़ रहा था। लेकिन कई स्कूलों में बच्चों की भाषाओं का बिना योजना के उपयोग के साथ साथ पुरानी एक भाषी प्रैक्टिस जो बनी हुई थी, ऐसा नहीं था कि वो लगभग खत्म हो गया था। इसलिए अध्ययन में हम इसे उद्देश्यपूर्ण ट्रांसलैंग्वेजिंग के बजाय एक आशाजनक शुरुआत के रूप में देख रहे हैं, जिसको इंकरेज करने और व्यवस्थित सपोर्ट करने के साथ मजबूत करने की जरूरत है। अब नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू द part 3 of the presentation, that is what these findings means for multilingual education. Next slide, please. So, let us now bring three of those findings together because they converge at one point. Finding 2 showed that the group 3 used the home language moderately between 25 to 50% of the time. Finding 5 shows that this same group recorded the highest on-task engagement and the most methodical use of literacy materials. Finding 7 showed that it also had the highest mixed language use at about 1%. What we did not expect was the reason. In all three schools, the teacher had not grown up speaking Halbi. They had begun to learn in it after being posted in rural Bastar. Their use of the home language was the most structured of any group, precisely because it rested on the material, the teacher guide, and repeated training rather than on native fluency. One of them described it in this way. Earlier, I didn't make much effort with Halbi. Since joining this program, I use it more. There are books, poems, posters, and stories in Halbi in the classroom, so I must speak some Halbi, and the children use it too. So I am learning it as well. In fact, the classroom taught the teacher. This is, in my mind, the most important thing Bastar has to offer the wider field. 66% of the teachers we survey do not report Halbi as their first language, and similar conditions occur across tribal majority districts. If multilingual educations were possible only where teachers already knew the children's language, a significant number of the schools that needs it most would be left out. Bastar shows that thoughtful design and sustained support can carry a good part of that load and bring the teachers along with it. अगर हम अभी तक हमने जो पिछले सेक्शन पार्ट में 7 फाइंडिंग्स की बात की, अगर हम उसमें से 3 फाइंडिंग्स 2, 5 और 7 को एक साथ देखें तो एक अच्छी तस्वीर बनती दिखती है। समूह ई में बच्चों की भाषा का उपयोग 20 से 25 से 50% था, यानी वो थर्ड ग्रुप था। इसी समूह में बच्चों की जो एंगेजमेंट था, शिक्षण सामग्री का उपयोग था, वो सबसे व्यवस्थित रूप में दिख रहा था, और सबसे अच्छा मिश्रित भाषाओं का उपयोग भी इसी समूह में था। इसका कारण हमारे लिए भी अप्रत्याशित था, क्योंकि इस समूह के तीनों शिक्षक हल्बी के मूल वक्ता नहीं थे। उनका जो भी उपयोग कर रहे थे हल्बी का, वो शिक्षण सामग्री शिक्षक संदर्शिका और नियमित प्रशिक्षण पर आधारित था, और साथ ही साथ वो उसको सीख भी रहे थे। एक शिक्षक ने कहा कि हल्बी की किताबों, कविताओं और बच्चों से बातचीत के कारण वे स्वयं हल्बी सीख रहे हैं। जब वो कक्षा में जाते हैं तो बच्चों से हल्बी सीख रहे हैं। इसका अर्थ है कि वो सिर्फ कक्षा में शिक्षक के तौर पे ना होकर एक वहां पे सीखने वाले के तौर पे भी थे। आ, यह इसलिए भी महत्वपूर्ण हो जाता है कि जब हमने सर्वे के डेटा को तो शिक्षक सर्वे में जो हमने विश्लेषण किया था, उसमें 66% शिक्षकों ने हल्बी को अपनी पहली भाषा नहीं बताया था। इसका अर्थ ये है कि अगर एक व्यवस्थित तरीके से सामग्री दी जाए और उनको उपयोग करने का तरीका बताया जाए, तो जो शिक्षक बच्चों की भाषा नहीं जानते वो भी सीख सकते हैं, इसकी संभावना दिखती है। तो समूह 3 दिखाता है कि और यह इसलिए भी महत्वपूर्ण हो जाता है क्योंकि बस्तर और ऐसे कई इलाकों में ऐसे शिक्षकों की संख्या बहुत है जो बच्चों की भाषा नहीं जानते। लेकिन एक चीज यहाँ पे इंपॉर्टेंट है, इसका अर्थ ये नहीं है कि शिक्षकों के लिए बच्चों की भाषा जानना महत्वपूर्ण नहीं है। बस्तर का स्ट्रक्चर्ड सपोर्ट मॉडल हमें ऐसे शिक्षकों के साथ काम करने के लिए एक आशा देता है। एक सेकंड। The second thing this findings means concern teachers' attitude and beliefs. Finding 1 shows that the home language entered the classroom. The survey and interviews together show that teachers' attitudes moved with it. About 90% teachers now show openness to using children's language. In the survey, 87% report using the home language for teaching. 92% encourage children to express themselves in it, and 71% reject the idea that many language confuse children. हमारे पास कितना समय है? The important point is how that change come about. Teachers did not change their views because they were persuaded in a training or workshops. They changed because they saw the difference in their own classrooms, where children who had previously stayed silent began to respond. That is why the mechanism matter. Regular training, mentoring, and bilingual materials working through a cycle of demonstrations, feedback, and field learning. This is a durable form of change, and it is one of the program's real achievements. Acceptance, however, acceptance is not yet complete. 65% still feel that higher order thinking is best taught in Hindi. That tells us where the next round of professional dialogue should focus, building on the openness that already uh, exists. एक दूसरा महत्वपूर्ण निष्कर्ष शिक्षकों के बिलीफ और एटीट्यूड से जुड़ा हुआ है। फाइंडिंग 1 में हमने देखा कि बच्चों की भाषा कक्षा में आ रही है। इसका एक सकारात्मक प्रभाव बच्चों की भाषा के प्रति शिक्षकों के एटीट्यूड और बिलीफ पर भी दिखता है। लगभग 90% शिक्षक अब बच्चों की भाषाओं के उपयोग के प्रति सकारात्मक है। 87% ने बच्चों की भाषा का उपयोग करने और 92% ने बच्चों को अपनी भाषा में बोलने के लिए प्रोत्साहित करने की बात कही। शिक्षकों के सकारात्मक के इस सकारात्मक बदलाव से यह समझ बनी कि बदलाव केवल नहीं, शिक्षकों के जब हमने शिक्षकों का साक्षात्कार किया, इंटरव्यू किया, तो हमें ये समझ में आ रहा था कि यह बदलाव केवल कार्यशाला या ट्रेनिंग से नहीं आ रहा है। शिक्षकों ने जब प्रोग्राम डिजाइन को शुरुआत में इम्प्लीमेंट करके देखा, तो पहले चुप रहने वाले बच्चे अपनी भाषा के उपयोग से उत्तर देने लगे। कक्षाओं में बच्चों की भागीदारी बढ़ने लगी और इंस्ट्रक्टर डिजाइन बढ़ने लगी, तो उन्होंने इंस्ट्रक्शन डिजाइन को अपनाना शुरू किया। और भाषाओं के प्रति उनके नजरिए में बदलाव आने लगा। इसका मतलब ये है कि शुरुआती पेडागोजिकल एडॉप्टेशन ने, ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है, शुरुआती पेडागोजिकल एडॉप्टेशन ने प्रोग्राम डिजाइन को फिर से रिइंफोर्स करना शुरू किया। यहाँ पर यह बताना जरूरी नहीं कि इस प्रक्रिया के लिए फिर ने पहले 1.5 साल तक लगातार कोशिश की, जिसमें नियमित प्रशिक्षण, मेंटरिंग, द्विभाषिक सामग्री, प्रदर्शन और फीडबैक शामिल है। हमारे लिए यह सीख है कि टीचर्स एटीट्यूड एंड बिलीफ में टिकाऊ बदलाव अभ्यास और सहयोग के निरंतर चक्र से आते हैं, और उसके लिए लगातार प्रयास करते रहना जरूरी है। लेकिन जो अध्ययन में जो हमने डेटा कलेक्ट किया, वो ये भी बताता है कि ये बदलाव के शुरुआती चरण है, क्योंकि 65% शिक्षक अभी भी उच्च स्तरीय चिंतन के लिए हिंदी को बेहतर मानते हैं। इसका मतलब है कि स्वीकार्यता बढ़ी है, लेकिन बच्चों की भाषा को ज्ञान और चिंतन की भाषा मानने की प्रक्रिया अभी भी अ, अधूरी है, जिसके लिए हमें लगातार प्रयास करना होगा। नेक्स्ट, the third thing worth drawing out on these conditions the program has been working with, because they shape what can reasonably be expected, and they make the game more, not less notable. Neev was designed for type 2 situation, as I have mentioned in earlier, where the teachers know the children's language. In practice, 66% teachers do not report Halbi as their first language. Almost 50% of the original teachers were replaced within 2 years due to the transfer and new recruitments, and 62% had entered teaching without pre-service training. That multilingual practices took root at all under these conditions is a real credit to the teachers and the field team. The second condition is that the aforementioned work hold the situation initial groundwork so. Oh, stop. The second condition is that the aforementioned work hold the situation initial groundwork toward the pace of integration. Oral language activities were well established. Connecting them systematically with decoding, reading, and writing is the work that underway. Big books and charts are valued, though used unevenly, and school museum use from 0 to 50 levels. Weekly classrooms use skills. The classroom use skill building at around 15%. The next priority, therefore, is not to, and that's the next priority, therefore, to build clear routines for using well what already exists. अब कुछ सीमाओं की बात करते हैं। जैसा कि हमने पहले कहा था कि नीट परियोजना में परियोजना को उन कक्षाओं के लिए तैयार किया गया था जहाँ शिक्षक बच्चों की भाषा जानते हो। यथार्थ में ऐसा नहीं था। 66% शिक्षकों की पहली भाषा हल्बी नहीं थी। इसके साथ 2 वर्षों में लगातार 40% शिक्षक जिनके साथ यह परियोजना शुरू की गई थी, या तो उनका तबादला हो गया या फिर उनके जगह पे नए शिक्षक आए। 62% शिक्षकों ने यह बताया कि उन्होंने बिना प्री सर्विस टीचिंग पढ़ाना शुरू किया था। इन सीमाओं के साथ अगर कार्यक्रम के बहुभाषी शिक्षा के एक्सेप्टेंस को देखें, तो इसका श्रेय बस्तर के शिक्षकों और एलएलएफ की बस्तर टीम को जाता है। लेकिन इसका एक और निहितार्थ भी है। इस फाउंडेशनल कामों ने टीम को पेडागोजिकल इंटीग्रेशन पर फोकस होने में चुनौतियां भी दी और वो इस अध्ययन में दिखता भी है। मौखिक भाषा विकास की गतिविधियां कक्षाओं में आई, जो हम देख रहे हैं। अ, उनको पठन और लेखन के साथ जोड़ना अभी जारी है। कक्षाओं में टीएलएम का उपयोग शुरू हुआ, और यह एक सफलता है। उनका निरंतर व्यवस्थित पेडागोजिकल उपयोग का काम होना जारी है। यह शोध इसलिए 5 मिनट्स ओके। यह शोध इसलिए नई सामग्री से यह शोध इसलिए बताता है कि अगले चरण के लिए हमें जो भी हमारे अचीवमेंट है उसको दिनचर्या प्रदर्शन और अवलोकन में उसको लगातार इन्फ्लुएंस करने की जरूरत होगी। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। So let me now draw this together because two lessons emerge that matter most for Bastar and the beyond. Uh, the first is pedagogical and it follows from findings 3, 4, and 5 together. The child's language delivers its full value when it is joined to dialogue, to reading and writing, to problem solving, and to active role for children. Where it is used mainly for the teacher's own explanation, children certainly hear their languages, which matter in itself, but the deeper learning gains come when the language becomes the medium of their participation. Bastar has established the first condition, the second is what the next phase builds. The second lesson concerns program support, and it follows from finding 6 and 7. One MLE team, our MLE team from the central into every colleague investor did remarkable work in the early phase, developing materials, addressing initial hesitations among teachers, establishing activities such as oral language development in classrooms, which made the adaptation of multilingual pedagogy possible. These are the foundational stones. As the program matured, a new set of demands emerged, reading, writing, and which requires strengthening reading, writing, purposive translanguaging, and higher order classroom talk. The lesson for us is that the form of pedagogical support has to be evolved as the classroom demands evolve. And that is where we are now directing the filtering capacity. हमारे दो सबक यहाँ पे बहुत क्लियरली दिख रहे हैं। पहला तो ये है कि बच्चों की भाषा का पूरा लाभ तभी मिलता है, कक्षा में लाने का पूरा लाभ तभी मिलता है जब वह संवाद, पढ़ने लिखने, समस्या समाधान और बच्चे की सक्रिय भूमिका से जुड़े। गुस्तर ने बच्चों की भाषा को कक्षा में स्थान दिया है और ये अपने आप में बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है, जिसपे हमें अगला चरण बिल्ड करना होगा और इसको लर्निंग के जो दूसरे आयाम से उसके साथ जोड़ना होगा, लिटरेसी के जो दूसरे आयाम है उसके साथ जोड़ना होगा। दूसरा सबक कार्यक्रम सहयोग का है। हमने ये देखा कि शुरुआती चरण में जब काम थे, खास करके जब इनिशियल फेज में टीचरों का रेसिस्टेंस बहुत था, उस काम ने और उस काम को करने में बस्तर की टीम ने बहुत बहुत मेहनत की। उन्होंने टीचरों से लगातार संवाद किया, को एक्सेसिबल बनाने के लिए उन्हें बातचीत करनी पड़ी। मौखिक भाषा विकास की गतिविधियों को प्राप्त कराने के लिए उन्होंने लगातार स्कूलों में जाके डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन किए और इन सब कार्यों ने तो एमएलई के एडॉप्टेशन को लेकर स्पेस क्रिएट किया। लेकिन इसके साथ जब ये प्रोग्राम अपनी जड़ें जमाने लगा तो नए तरह के शिक्षकों की तरफ से नई तरह की चुनौतियां भी सामने आई। शिक्षकों ने इसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने में नई तरह की चुनौतियां महसूस की, जिसको लेकर कार्य करना अभी बाकी है। जो एक इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट से इस पूरे अध्ययन से निकलता है कि कार्यक्रम जब इम्प्लीमेंट होता है तो उसमें जो सहयोग की जरूरतें हैं वो इवॉल्व होती है, वो फिक्स नहीं होती है। और इसीलिए हमारे टीम की या हम सबकी जरूरत थी कि हम उन जरूरतों को आइडेंटिफाई करें। इवॉल्विंग एंगेजमेंट जो टीचर का हो रहा था उसको आइडेंटिफाई करके उस हिसाब से सहयोग करें और इस पे हम वर्तमान में प्रयास कर रहे हैं। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। One central message emerged clearly from the study: the inclusion of children's language in the classroom is necessary for meaningful education, and its full value is realized when it is joined to dialogic, participatory, and well-planned teaching. Bastar has achieved the first. The recommendations are about completing the second. The study suggests high priority and each answer one of the findings. First, continued professional dialogue on language hierarchies, building on openness that 90% of teachers already show. Second, dictionaries, primers, training, and mentoring for teachers who do not share the children's language. The group 3 experience shows how much of this can achieve. Third, a clear plan connecting oral language development with decoding, reading, and writing, including dictation, so that the strong oral foundations become literacy. Fourth, strengthening the field team's capacity in literacy teaching, translanguaging, higher order talks, and mentoring. And fifth, phase-wise implementation because pedagogical change mature through continuous support. Alongside this, lasting system level ownership calls for connecting district structures, diet and teacher education institutions, and extending language responsive support through grade 5. अगर हम देखें तो अगले चरण में या इस कार्यक्रम को एमएलई कार्यक्रम को बस्तर में जड़े जमाने के लिए हम 5 तरह के सुझाव इस अध्ययन के आधार पर प्रस्तावित करते हैं। पहला है कि भाषा की हायरार्की पर हमें लगातार संवाद करने की जरूरत बनी हुई है ताकि बच्चों की भाषा को ज्ञान और चिंतन की भाषा माना जाए और शिक्षक, क्योंकि ये मान्यता शिक्षकों के प्रैक्टिस में जरूरी बदलाव लाते। दूसरी, बच्चों की भाषा न जानने वाले शिक्षकों के लिए शब्दकोश, प्राइमर, विभाजित सामग्री, भाषा सीखने के अवसर को व्यवस्थित करना जरूरी है कि हमने देखा है कि ग्रुप 3 स्कूल के जो शिक्षक थे उन्होंने इस मामले में हमें नए आशाएं दी। तीसरा, मौखिक भाषा विकास को डिकोडिंग, पढ़ने और लिखने और से जोड़ने की स्पष्ट योजना, जिससे कि मौखिक भाषा विकास से जो हमें अभी एक ग्राउंड मिल रहा है उसके आधार पर लिटरेसी की बाकी आयाम को मजबूत किया जा सके। चौथी, साक्षरता लिटरेसी चौथी साक्षरता फील्ड टीम की लिटरेसी, ट्रांसलैंग्वेजिंग, उच्च स्तरीय संवाद और मेंटरिंग जैसे आयामों पर हमें उनकी क्षमता वर्धन पे काम करना। पांचवा, चरणबद्ध इस कार्यक्रम को इम्प्लीमेंट करते हुए हमें इसको चरणबद्ध तरीके से डिजाइन करना चाहिए और उन चीजों पे बारीक से निगाह रखनी चाहिए जो कि फील्ड से इवॉल्व हो रही है, क्योंकि चुनौतियां फील्ड में इम्प्लीमेंटेशन की फिक्स नहीं है। वो जैसे जैसे प्रोग्राम इम्प्लीमेंटेशन जड़े जमाता है, चुनौतियों के नए आयाम खुलते हैं। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। The concluding slide. Let me conclude with the balance of the evidence. The Bastar study documents a real shift from long-entrenched monolingual teaching towards multilingual practice. When children's language become part of classroom instructions, their oral expression and participation improve. Teachers found more effective way of teaching and their acceptance of multilingual education skill. In a districts where only 55% of children speak the school language at home, that is a substantial achievement in itself. The study is equally clear that this is a journey in progress. The gains achieved in oral language now needs to be extended into independent reading, writing, and high-order thinking, and teacher acceptance needs to be grounded more firmly in multilingual pedagogical principles so that it would develop into routine classroom practices. The study also underlines the importance of teaching teachers' continuity in MLE schools, particularly during these formative years of bringing community knowledge into the curriculum and of strengthening institutional ownership across the education system. Let me end with the most fundamental point. Our first priority is to give children's language their rightful place in the classroom, and Bastar shows that this can be done at a scale in difficult conditions. The work ahead is to complete the inclusion with the pedagogical and systemic support that makes it meaningful and sustainable. थैंक यू। अगर मैं इसको हिंदी में कहूँ तो बस्तर ने ये बस्तर प्रोग्राम ये दिखाता है कि अ, बड़े स्तर पे बच्चों की भाषा को कक्षा में समायोजित किया जा सकता है, और यह इस कार्यक्रम की सफलता दिखती है। इसको आगे बढ़ाकर इस इंक्लूजन को आगे बढ़ाकर बेहतर शिक्षण से जोड़ना, जिसमें एक डायलॉजिकल प्रैक्टिसेस को इंक्लूड करना शामिल है। इस तरह के इंक्लूजन पे हमें काम करना भी बाकी है। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Pushpam, for this uh, presentation. I see that there are a couple of questions. Because it started 5 minutes late, we'll also request anybody's extension of time for 5 more minutes and give us that grace. I'll just try to club some questions. So the first question, I think, which we can take wholly itself, is from Sangstok itself, who basically is asking that using home language along with Hindi does not always help learning. So they would want to know how translanguaging actually helps students to learn better. And second question that they ask is how were teachers able to take the position of learners? And like how basically when you said that in effect the classroom taught the teachers, how were teachers able to take the position of the learners, and how students were able to take courage to teach the teachers? And he would want some examples in that. Yeah.
Sorry, can you just
Yeah.
repeat the questions?
Yes. Okay,
Yes.
so we'll go one by one. The first question that he's saying is that how he says that believing using home language along with Hindi does not always help learning. You want to know how does translanguage actually help the students learn better?
Okay. Just let me check it out. I'm reading the question. Just give me a moment. Usually does not always speak out closely. Okay. I would like to know how transformation actually helps students learn it. So I think so, because the question start with the belief that the home language along with Hindi does not always help learning. Um, I think so. Whether it can be said or not, I don't know. Uh, but the second part of question, so I don't have any answer of that. I would like to know how translanguaging actually help students learn it. So there are two things. When we are saying translanguaging, it's happened in two levels. This was particularly helps a lot where teacher does not know children's language, and as it happened in many cases. Um, when teachers start using, Hindi and students using their own languages, they one thing I think before going to on these questions, I have to say one more thing, which I have already discussed. That is, um, the program design is structured in a way, if teachers follow the instructions designs and the package programs follow, it's make the use of L1 very, it's create a conditions in which L1 use very systematically. For example, if we are starting in a grade one and teacher has to uh, uh, recite a poem which is written in Halbi in Devanagari script, because script is the same. So teachers, without knowing and there are, in teachers guides, we have provided the translations of Halbi songs in Hindi also. So teachers guide while using though without knowing the Halbi, with the help of that teacher's guide, and teacher start singing those song in Halbi, and it's break the kind of linguistic impositions, and a student uh, feel, at least to some extent, free themselves to express in Halbi, while teacher is still using Hindi in many cases. And I think so, in this way, translanguaging helps teachers as well as the students to break this language barrier in classroom in the study schools. That's the first. And the second, I think, so what are the questions? 46, 50 questions. Yeah, this is very, again, this is, I think this is the extension of the first answers. Uh, this is this is based on one premises that teachers are open to learn children's language. This is the fundamental. And what we have observed in, the three schools, that's when teachers, like those three teachers, this is not something, we can't make a generalizations because the sample is very small. But however, it still allows us to, if teachers are open towards to learn children's language, and the program actually expects teachers to learn it through its, through its comprehensive package. And in this way, students are not, teaching students. They are just, speaking in Halbi. However, this act of communication in itself become a kind of pedagogical inputs, or learning inputs for the teacher. So in this way, I think they are, helping teachers as well. I hope, uh, thanks for, I have answered your question, right? So we go to the next question.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just clubbing these three questions together, which is basically around materials and like the program design itself, since you were also talking about the program design as a response to the previous question, which is what kind of materials are there available for children in Haldi, and what are the materials that are available in Hindi? That, and if you could sort of also clarify as to how does oral language development happen in Hindi and Haldi?
How the oral language development happening?
Hindi and Haldi, are they separate? Are they together?
Okay. So I think it's, this question is again about the program design and the package we are, package we are using in this multilingual program. There are two answers. We have been using a comprehensive set of materials that includes Viddu, Chitra chart, chart charts, along with its workbook, where L1 and L2 is used in very systematic way together. The the second question was, the second aspect is, I think if you refer me the questions, I would able to respond in much visible.
I'm just clubbing at the question because of the lack of time. But the second question is basically about the specificities of oral language development, and particularly in Hindi and Hindi. Are they separate? Are they different? Are they similar? Yeah.
So okay. So as I said, and I think again this question is also about the program designs. I don't think I have much time to explain it in totality. Basically, we in oral language development we start with Halbi. Lots of in the first 6 to 9 weeks, we used to focus on oral language development, in which we use lots of L1 materials, poems, stories, etc. Along with it, one particular pedagogical input is very critical, that is PPR, through which we try to introduce Hindi or L1, L2 in systematic ways. That's the first thing. And gradually, we try to place Hindi. I think again, it's happened across the years. And gradually, we are moving or placing Hindi text. We are also ensuring that before placing those Hindi texts, children must familiar themselves in a similar text in Hindi. So the text remains the same when it comes in Hindi. Children, it is assumed that by design, it is assumed that students, before reading the text in Hindi, familiarize itself with them in Halbi. So this is the progression I think we are following. I think so. It would be better to to go through with this kind of questions from under comprehensive presentations of program design, material, and the structures we are following. So
Yeah, I
shall we go
think
to the next
this is the
question?
last point. I think because this is more related to the study. I think there as basically Aditi has a wider point. If you just look at the recent question, latest question, the teachers changing because they were seeing a change in the classroom due to changes in their practice is very important. I would love to hear an example of how it guys happened through a qualitative description of what is happening during this transition. Yes, teachers changing because of some
Yeah, I'm
practice.
just
Yeah.
reading the questions. Oh, yes, yes, just give me a moment. Okay. So, uh, look, when I think so, I have to want to next look at the time. I think it's a really important question because I said that the teacher believes change in teachers beliefs primarily happening to the practices. When we are saying the practice, what does it mean? It's imply two or three things. Uh, it's saying that, and if we look at the conception of teachers in Indian context, where um, we service education is not teachers who have been working areas like Bastars primarily complete their teacher education primary pre-service teacher education through correspondence. Their source of practice is always most of the times happen their own schooling or the practices happen in classrooms. Uh, what they have been observing their colleagues doing or their teachers are practicing. So in these situations, when we are saying something works or some pedagogy works, it really uh, teachers approach this kind of pedagogical innovation with a certain kind of skepticism, whether it's work or not. However, when that's also happened in our program, when initially teachers were very resisting whether we should work in the children's language or not. However, when they start working first, what happened? They start using poem posters and chitchat written and developed in album. And they found very interesting thing that children's when they start singing one Halbi poems, teachers were students were responding in much uh, you know uh, children's participation was much more they were they were participating. Uh, this is thing I think this is triggered the second set of adaptation. So if you go through with the reports, we have tried to chalk down what happened in the field in fifth chapters. Initial adaptation happened in the through the print, then the songs, and this when they start, they start observing that this kind of materials is meaningful for their own teaching practices. They start adopting next set of things, that is the oral language development and the activities of oral language development. And when they felt that okay, this is also fruitful to organize the classrooms, fruitful to organize the classrooms, or to to bring children's participation, they further reinforce the next layer of instruction design. So that's the way I think it happens. I think so. These questions need little more explanations, but we are running out of time, right?
Yeah, we actually, I am so sorry. We because there were so many technical difficulties while we were doing this thing. I apologize to everybody who is present, but I thank you so much for your patience in sticking towards it, and thank you again, Pushpam, for this this deliberate presentation and responding to all of these questions as well. I see there are a few more questions which I think aren't answering, but I think we can answer them on by email. So I think I see an Annie Vinod's question and couple of questions from Aruna Prabhu and Kasim as well. So we'll try to respond to these in writing post after the webinar. Or as the post webinar survey goes to you, we'll send a link of this recording as well, and of course the link to the report as well, which is up on our website. So yeah, I'm so sorry we're not able to respond to all of your questions, but we will be sharing the report. And again, we'll be trying to frame our responses to the questions that have been given here. And as we said that, um, yeah, so we'll try to sort of close this session today here. Thank you again, everybody, for attending this session. And yeah, I think Pushpa, you want to close the
Can we do
session?
one thing? I think if the questions has come and it
Yeah,
has not been answered, can we request everyone to spot? We have already their emails.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we
So yeah,
can
yeah.
try to respond these questions through email.
Yes.
Since we have not, we are not responding here. So that would
Yes,
be
yes. Yeah, yeah. We could respond to that's what I mean. We will respond to by email to the participants available. Okay. Again, thank you so much. Again, I know we have run 12 minutes short, so we'll not take your time anymore and just close this. Yeah, but uh, again, the findings are out. The report is out. It's available on our website as well as we'll be sharing a report on this. The recording of this webinar will be up, and please watch the space for more webinars that are going to come in this next series. Again, thank you so much for everybody for attending. Thank you so much.